the Grouchy Nerd. Alright, quiet down, knuckleheads. It's time to look at another new hero from Fantasy Flight Games' Marvel Champions. This time we're looking at Valkyrie. Whatever. Roughly 1,000,000 years ago, Odin destroyed the version of Earth on which Brunhilde was a princess because it had become corrupted by his brother. Odin chose Brunhilde to lead his Valkyrie, an army of warrior goddesses who escort worthy worshippers of the Asgardian pantheon slain on a battlefield to Valhalla, the land of the honored dead in Asgard. Surprise! I killed everyone you've ever known, and now you work for me for actual ever. Surprise! Brunhilde served Odin in this way for millennia until she fell for the promise of adventure by the Enchantress, who imprisoned her in a crystal and took her power and likeness for a time and got into all kinds of hijinks. I hate that. When you get imprisoned inside a crystal. We were just talking the other day about how much I hate getting imprisoned inside a crystal. Valkyrie's hero side has 1 thwart, 2 attack, and 1 defense. Her hand size is 5, and her hit points are 12, which is always nice to see. Her hero ability is Death Perception. Now listen, some people may call me basic, but I love a pun, and I'm not going to apologize for it. For a hero action, play the set-aside Death Glow upgrade as if it were in your hand. We'll get there. On the alter ego side, we have Brunhilde, who has a recovery of 4, drops the Avenger trait but keeps the Asgard one, and her hand size goes up by 1. As a setup action, set the Deathglow upgrade aside out of play. And as an action, detach Deathglow and set it out of play. So for a hero action, she can attach it. For an alter ego action, she can remove it. So we should probably take a look at Deathglow, as it is pretty key to basically everything Valkyrie's kit does. Now remember, this card starts out of play, so you can pay 1 cost to play this upgrade that attaches to an enemy. When that enemy is defeated, set Deathglow back out of play. If Valkyrie is the one that defeated it, ready her. So make sure your allies are doing all the roughing up, and then Valkyrie swoops in, takes the credit, and readies and do it all over again. Now, being able to ready after killing a minion that this Deathglow is attached to would be pretty worth messing with it already, but as you'll see, there's a whole lot more perks to it. Notice, too, that Deathglow is a 16th hero card, and this one does not have the permanent keyword, so there's no ambiguity here. It's part of her deck, and if your deck can only be 40 to 50 cards, that means you can only take 24 to 34 aspect or basic cards to make a deck with Valkyrie, until ruled otherwise. Now, a permanent card can't ever leave play, but Deathglow does not have that. So if you get a caught off guard and Deathglow is the only upgrade you control, you're going to have to discard that, meaning you're going to have to wait for it to come back through your deck and then play it on a minion and then defeat that minion to put it back out of play, because putting it out of play is also a setup action. You can't just do that in the middle of the game. Alright, so let's take a look at her kit. Valkyrie's signature ally is Annabelle Riggs of the Chicago Riggses, a 2-cost 2 HP civilian ally with 1 thwart and 1 attack. As an alter ego action, exhaust Annabelle Riggs to search the top 5 cards of your deck for a Valkyrie card and add it to your hand. The tutoring effect is great. Basically everything else about her is pretty underwhelming for a signature ally. It feels like it should be more like a persona. Regardless, the fact that the tutoring can only happen when you're an alter ego means that she's probably going to be a cheap block more often than anything else. Valhalla is a 2-cost support with the Asgard and location traits. Exhaust it to heal a damage and draw a card when you defeat the enemy with Deathglow attached to it. And hey, look at that, the card you just drew can pay to put Deathglow back out on another minion, and by killing the first minion you've readied, and so you can do the whole thing all over again, and you can start to see where some turns can really build up if you have the minions for it. Next is a 1-cost upgrade with the restricted keyword and the Asgard and weapon traits. Valkyrie's Spear. It gives Valkyrie +1 to her defense, +2 against the enemy with Deathglow on it. This one is fine. She's got a pretty good health pool. She's got ways of deepening that pool even more, so I feel like defense isn't going to be a top priority with Valkyrie unless you were leaning into that and playing a protection deck with her. Dragon Fang, on the other hand, is great. A 1-cost upgrade that also has the restricted keyword and the Asgard and weapon traits. This one gives Valkyrie +1 to her attack, +2 against the enemy with Deathglow on it. So yeah, this gets her basic attack up to 3 or 4 against the enemy with Deathglow on it, but do remember this is only when attacking. It's not a static boost the way something like combat training is. This is only when you attack using that stat. Next is a flying horse named Aragorn, a 2-cost Asgard and creature traded upgrade that give Valley a +4 HP boost and the aerial trait. I love Ariel, and I love Asgardians and their ridiculous hit point pool, though do note that none of Valkyrie's hero cards interact with the aerial trait in any way. So if you want to make any use out of that, it's going to be from her aspect cards. 2 copies of a 2-cost upgrade called Flight of the Valkyrie. After the enemy with Death Glow attached is defeated, discard this card to remove 5 threat from a scheme. Threat removal is Valkyrie's biggest weakness. She doesn't have a lot that can help her out with that. Her basic thwart is only 1. This card can take away 5, which is so nice, and it's a response. You can just play it, and then it's just when you defeat the enemy with Deathglow on it, you get to use it if you have 5 on there. It can just sit and wait until you can use it to great effect. Next is a 0-cost event, Visit Valhalla. For an alter ego action, return a Valkyrie card from your discard pile to your hand. I mean, sure, yeah, if you get it at the right time, but it's an event. There's 1 copy of it, and you have to be an alter ego to use it. You're probably not going to get it at the right time. Then we've got 2 copies of another 0-cost event, Chooser of the Slain. This one has a hero action. Search the encounter deck and discard for a minion and put it into play engaged with you to draw 2 cards. Very similar to Thor's Defender of the Nine Realms or Looking for Trouble, but you don't get the threat mitigation, but you do get to draw cards, but you don't have to burn through the encounter deck, and you get to choose the minion that you face. Great for teeing up Flight of the Valkyrie. Get a minion, put Deathglow on it, kill it, get your 5 threat off. It's a great card. Next is 2 copies of a 2-cost event, Shield Maiden, which lets you defend against the enemy with Deathglow attached to it without having to exhaust at +2 defense. I mean, this is like the best card you ever hope to not need to use because you're going to be hoping to clear the minion with Deathglow on it on the turn that you just finished. But if you're not able to and you do have to defend against it, yeah, it's a pretty good, great card. Last is 2 copies of a 3-cost event, Have At Thee. As a hero action, deal 7 damage to an enemy. If it is Deathglowed, it gains Overkill. I mean, it's good, but it's also expensive. You have to pay 1 to get the Deathglow on the minion, and then you pay 3 to play this, and it's got Overkill. That's nice, but that's a lot of resources for 7 damage. The bad stuff! Valkyrie's obligation is trouble in Otherworld. Her consciousness sometimes shares the body of her signature ally, Annabelle Riggs, and when one is in control, the other one is in a place called Otherworld, I think is how it goes. Valkyrie cannot attack the enemy with Deathglow. Spend an energy and mental resource to remove it from the game. So no discard option, and it takes specific resources to get rid of it. Eesh. Next, we have some reprints. Valkyrie's signature Nemesis is Enchantress, but it's the same Enchantress from the Mad Titan's Shadow Enchantress Encounter set. Like, it's literally it's the exact same card. The only card in this Nemesis set that isn't a reprint from the Encounter set is the side scheme. What? Fine, I'll look at a stupid reprint. 2 scheme, 1 attack, not too bad, but 5 hit points kind of sucks. When revealed, search for a copy of Seduced and attach it to your identity, and that really sucks. But, like, nothing to do with Deathglow. You can't put it on her, or it has to be on her, but it doesn't do anything. Something where it feels unique to Valkyrie, right? Or, oops, she put you in a crystal. Plus, if you don't know it, we'll look at it in a second here, but Seduced is debilitating. This is a really tough signature Nemesis. Her side scheme, Powerful Enchantments, comes into play with 2 threat, but it also hinders 1, so add another threat. And it has the acceleration icon, so add an extra threat at the top of the villain phase too. While it's out, players cannot discard attachments that are on friendly characters. Of course, if you've played using this set with Mad Titan's Shadow, then you know what we're talking about. If not, get ready, because it blows. 1 copy of an attachment called Beguiled, attached to the highest cost ally in play. That ally becomes a minion engaged with its controller. If there is no ally to attach it to, it gains Surge. This is a real bummer. This is a bummer of a card. It's an extra bummer that it's a reprint. No, I will not let that go. Last, we've got 2 copies of the aforementioned Seduced, which attaches to you and prevents attacks. Get rid of it for an energy and a mental resource. That card makes Enchantress very difficult. Listen, I don't know what all is involved in making a game like this. I'm sure it is an insurmountable amount of work, and I'm sure you look for ways to mitigate that and lighten that burden as often as possible, and I would never, ever disparage my 20 Nick Furies or the stack of double resource cards that I have, but a Nemesis set that is the same as an encounter set it feels disappointing. That's just disappointing. Moving on to her aspect cards, Valkyrie came with an aggression pre-constructed deck. First up is a 3-cost ally, Thor of the Odinson varietal. 3 hit points, 1 thwart, 3 attack, but with 2 consequential damage. Asgard and Avenger traits, of course, and the always welcome toughness keyword, so he comes into play with a tough status card on him. When Thor attacks an enemy, you can spend an energy resource to resolve that attack against each enemy you're engaged with. It's the miniaturization of Lightning Strike. I love that! And for being one of the heavy hitters, he's pretty cheap at 3 costs. That's great. Next is Throg, alter ego Puddle Gulp. Oh man, I love Throg. Look at him. Look how intense he is. He's a frog. He's an intense frog with the power of Thor. He also costs 2, has 1 thwart, 2 attack, and 2 hit points with the Asgard and Guardian traits because he was on a version of the Guardians of the Galaxy called the Asgardians of the Galaxy because it was made up of different Asgardians from around the multiverse. And have I mentioned yet in this one that comics are weird? Throg gets a tough status if you're engaged with a minion when he enters play. I mean, yeah, Thor and Valkyrie are already looking for every minion they can find, so this is great. This feels like an auto-include in any Thor aggression deck at the very, very least. So now we've got Thor Odinson, Thor Jane Foster, and Throg. Oh, I wish Beta Ray Bill was an aggression. Next is 3 copies of a 2-cost event, Quick Strike, not to be confused with the keyword Quick Strike. This is the lazy set. Deal damage equal to your attack stat. Great if you're trying to burn through the villain as fast as possible, which if you're playing aggression, probably. Also note that with Valkyrie, if you're doing this on the enemy with Deathglow on it and you've got Dragon Fang out, those boosts do count because it's your attack stat. Next is the way more exciting Smash the Problem, a 1-cost thwart event. Exhaust your hero to remove threat from a scheme equal to your hero's attack. I don't know why Thor is on the card art because this is so clearly a Hulk card, right? It's even got Smash in the name. I don't know. I just want Hulk to be good. Though it is really good for Valkyrie as well. She does have threat mitigation issues. Flight of the Valkyrie is really her only good threat option, so yeah. Next is 3 copies of the Best Defense, a 0-cost defense event. When your hero defends against an attack, use its attack stat instead of its defense stat. I'm pretty into this idea of get your attack stat up as high as possible and let it do everything. I want to see more support for it, but this is a fun card. I like this card. Next, we've got a 1-cost Asgardian location basic support, the Bifrost. Exhaust it and search your deck for an Asgard ally and play it, but you still got to pay its cost. Another card that is good for Valkyrie, but incredible for Thor, who has hand size issues. This is going to allow him to afford those allies a lot easier. Next, we've got a 0-cost basic event, Godlike Stamina. Play only if you have the Asgard trait, heal 2 damage, and you discard a status card. Great for either of our Asgardians so far, and I'm sure any Asgardian yet to come. This allows you to stay in hero form longer, which is really vital in solo. Then we've got 3 copies of our Justice card, Problem Solvers. It's a thwart event with the Alliance keyword, so any number of players or identities can pay for it. Exhaust an Avenger and a Guardian character to remove their combined thwart from each scheme in play. I mean, yeah, it's obviously a multiplayer card, so I hate it, but wow, what a really good multiplayer card. Imagine that thing in Red Skull. Our leadership card is Leadership Training, rounding out the set. 2 copies, max 2 per deck, uses 2 counters. Exhaust and spend a counter to shuffle a leadership event from your discard into your deck. So this was the last of the aspects of this sort of formula of card, unless we get a basic version, which I guess we might, but it's great. If you play both of them targeting the same event that you have 3 copies of in your deck, then you get to have that event 7 times. If there are 2 events that you have 3 copies of, and you use this 1 each, that's 5 times for each of those events. 3 copies of the protection card Anticipation. A 1-cost preparation upgrade. Max 1 per player. When you engage a minion, discard this and ready your hero. Black Widow has entered the chat. Pretty good to have out. It's kind of like the protection version of Lion Weight. Also, maybe a nerd nerdier than me can correct me if I'm wrong, but that's Bullseye, right? That's Bullseye as Hawkeye from Dark Reign, right? Dare I have hope that we're going to get a set of Dark Reign heroes? Last, our neutral card is another event with the Alliance keyword. For 3 cost, ready an Avenger character and a Guardian character. This one could almost be worth it in a true solo Star-Lord deck where you're using Avengers allies who are then also Guardian allies, but I feel like it would still be too much work to try and set everything up and dedicate that much of your deck to this one trick. All in all, I found Valkyrie to be kind of a slog to play. She has powerful cards, but they're annoying. Deathglow wound up being more of an obligation than her actual obligation. It sucks that you have to pay for it. It sucks that you have to be an alter ego if you want to take it off of something, so you never want to put it on the villain. So then you're not ever really using Shield Maiden to its full effect. You're not using the Spear to its full effect. A reprinted Nemesis sucks. And having that reprinted Nemesis be one of the most obnoxious minions in the game super sucks. Right now, I'm sorry to say, I think the best thing coming out of this pack is what it did for Thor. Bifrost is great. Throg is an amazing Thor ally. And Godlike Stamina is incredible in Thor. I'm certainly down to be proven wrong. If you make a good Valkyrie deck, you want to post it in the comments, I would love to steal your work. If I got anything wrong, and let's be honest, I probably got something wrong, be sure to point it out in the comments. If you just disagree with one of my takes, keep it to yourself. I don't care about that. I don't care at all. No, fine. Put it in the comments if it makes you feel good. Anyway, that's Valkyrie. Now get off my lawn. The Grouchy Nerd.